In the bustling streets of Istanbul, MI6 agents Bond and Moneypenny are searching for a deadly mercenary named Patrice. He has stolen a hard drive containing the identities of MI6 undercover agents working in terrorist groups. Suddenly, Bond spots him, and they immediately engage in a high-speed motorcycle chase, weaving through traffic and racing across the rooftops of the Grand Bazaar. Back at MI6 headquarters, the head of MI6, is controlling the operation in her office. She orders Bond and Moneypenny to stop Patrice at all costs. Bond is driving recklessly, prioritizing the mission over his safety. When Patrice runs out of options, he jumps onto a speeding train and Bond follows. The two engage in a deadly game of cat and mouse, with Patrice firing shots at Bond. But Bond quickly gets into an excavator and uses it to shield himself from the bullets. At the same time, Moneypenny follows the train in a car. She stops the car and positions herself on a nearby hill with a sniper rifle. Her eyes are locked on the fight, knowing that if the train enters the tunnel ahead, they'll lose Patrice. As the train approaches the tunnel, M makes a tough decision. She orders Moneypenny to shoot Patrice, even though it's a risky shot. Moneypenny takes a deep breath and pulls the trigger, but the bullet hits Bond instead of Patrice. Then, Bond falls from the train into a river, and everyone believes he is dead. Meanwhile, Patrice escapes with the hard drive, putting MI6 in a difficult position. A few months later, MI6 faces another crisis. Their servers are hacked, and M receives a message on her computer that says, "Think on your sins." Moments later, a massive explosion hits MI6 headquarters, destroying part of the building and killing 6 agents. Mallory, the Intelligence and Security Committee chairman, pressures M to retire, questioning her leadership and the safety of her agents. But if there's one thing M hates, it's being told to retire. Meanwhile, James Bond, who has been living off the grid and enjoying his presumed death, hears about the attack on MI6 through a news broadcast. Despite his injuries and the emotional scars from his last mission, Bond returns to London, ready to rejoin the service. Then, Bond undergoes a series of physical and psychological evaluations to determine his fitness for duty. The tests reveal that Bond is not in peak condition. Despite these setbacks, M reinstates Bond, trusting his abilities over the clinical assessments. Afterward, Moneypenny, burdened with guilt, apologizes to Bond for her earlier misfire and informs him that she's been temporarily suspended from fieldwork. Later, M assigns Bond a critical mission: find Patrice, discover who he works for, recover the stolen hard drive, and eliminate Patrice. To assist him, Bond meets Q, the new quartermaster of MI6. Q provides Bond with essential gadgets, including a radio beacon and a Walther PPK pistol, preparing Bond for action. Back at MI6, they discover that Patrice will be in Shanghai in 2 days. Bond wastes no time and travels to Shanghai. He follows Patrice from the airport, observing his every move. After shooting a security guard, Patrice enters a building and takes an elevator to a high floor. Bond, never one to wait for the next lift, leaps onto the underside of the elevator and holds on as it ascends. As the elevator reaches its destination, Bond follows Patrice into a darkened office space. Inside, Patrice sets up a sniper rifle to assassinate a target in a nearby building. Bond watches from the shadows, but can't stop Patrice from completing the assassination. Immediately, a brutal fight breaks out between Bond and Patrice, but before Bond can get any information about Patrice's employer, Patrice falls to his death. However, a mysterious woman is watching everything from the adjacent building. Bond sees her, but as the light dims, he vanishes from her sight. Then, Bond finds a casino token in Patrice's possession, providing a crucial lead to his next destination, Macau. Meanwhile, the stolen list of undercover agents has been decoded, and the names and photos of 5 agents are posted on YouTube. Every week, 5 more agents will be exposed. Once again, M receives a haunting message that says, "Think on your sins." At the same time, Bond travels to Macau, a city famous for its luxurious casinos and vibrant nightlife. Inside the casino, Moneypenny awaits him, her suspension from fieldwork seemingly lifted. Bond enters the casino and cashes in the token he found on Patrice, which is worth €4 million. This leads him to a high-stakes gambling table, catching the attention of Severine, who worked with Patrice. Realizing Bond must have killed Patrice and wants to meet her boss, she approaches him. Bond notices a unique tattoo on Severine's wrist, indicating she was once a slave rescued by a criminal who now controls her. This criminal is the mastermind behind the chaos MI6 is facing. Severine warns Bond that her bodyguards are about to kill him when she leaves, but she promises to help him if he survives. After telling him where to find her, she departs. Immediately, her guards attack Bond. Suddenly, a man points a gun at his head. Just as the man is about to pull the trigger, Moneypenny arrives and saves Bond. Then, Bond leaves the 4 million euros for Moneypenny. Moments later, Bond joins Severine on her luxurious yacht, and they share an intimate moment. But back in London, British agents start turning up dead, worsening the crisis and adding to the urgency of Bond's mission. Bond and Severine travel to a mysterious, abandoned island off the coast of Macau. Upon arrival, they are captured by the island's crew and taken to meet Severine's boss, Raul Silva. Silva, once an MI6 agent, has turned to cyber terrorism and orchestrated the attack on MI6. He reveals his deep hatred for M, accusing her of betraying him, which led to his capture by the Chinese. Silva then tries to persuade Bond to join him, and Bond pretends to go along with it, playing a dangerous game of deception. Outside, Silva places a glass of whiskey on Severine's head and orders Bond to shoot it off. Bond is shaking, afraid of hitting Severine, but if he doesn't take the shot, Silva's man will kill him. Bond takes a deep breath and intentionally misses the shot, but that doesn't save Severine from being killed. In a swift and deadly response, Bond eliminates all of Silva's men, but leaves Silva alive. Then he alerts MI6 reinforcements using a radio beacon provided by Q. They arrive just in time to capture Silva and transport him back to Britain for questioning. During his interrogation, Silva shares his tragic story. When he was captured by the Chinese, he tried to self-delete by taking a pill. Instead of killing him, the pill dissolved the insides of his lower jaw, leaving him disfigured but alive. Later, M explains to Bond that Silva was once an MI6 agent in Hong Kong. He was an exceptional hacker, but he crossed the line by hacking into Chinese systems. To ensure a smooth transition and secure the release of 6 other agents, she handed Silva over to the Chinese authorities. Meanwhile, Q attempts to decrypt Silva's laptop, unaware that it is a trap. Silva laughs, indicating he has a plan. When Q connects Silva's laptop to MI6's network, it grants Silva access to their systems. This triggers a security breach, allowing Silva to escape from his cell. Silva's men, disguised as police officers, give him a uniform. After putting it on, Silva boards a train. Just as the train is about to leave, Q spots Silva on a security camera and alerts Bond to get on the train. Bond sprints to catch the train just in time. As the train stops, Silva immediately starts running. Then, Bond pursues him through the underground tunnels of London. During the chase, Silva causes a massive explosion, destroying an underground tunnel and causing a train to crash. Bond escapes unharmed and continues chasing Silva. Silva and his men arrive at the Parliament inquiry where M is present. They are disguised as a police officer and armed with a gun and explosives. When Mallory tries to save M, Silva shoots him, but he is okay. As Silva closes in on M, Bond arrives just in time to stop the assassination attempt. Bond, Mallory, and Moneypenny manage to kill all of Silva's men, but Silva escapes once again. To trap Silva, Bond instructs Q and Bill Tanner to create an electronic trail for Silva to follow. Bond then takes M to Skyfall, his childhood home in the remote Scottish Highlands, using his iconic Aston Martin DB5. At the lodge, they are greeted by Kincaid, the estate's gamekeeper and Bond's old friend. Bond, M, and Kincaid prepare for Silva's arrival by setting up traps around the house. Knowing they are outnumbered and outgunned, they use their creativity to even the odds, turning the old house into a fortress. They use whatever they can find, including old hunting rifles, dynamite, and even light bulbs filled with nails. It's like a deadly version of Home Alone. When Silva's men arrive, Bond, M, and Kincaid manage to kill most of the attackers, but M gets wounded. Bond sets off a series of explosions using dynamite sticks, creating chaos and confusion among Silva's men. Meanwhile, Silva arrives in a chopper with more men. Realizing they are in great danger, Bond sends M and Kincaid through a secret passage called a priest hole, which leads to a nearby chapel. Meanwhile, Bond sets up propane tanks to explode, creating a massive blast that destroys the house and the helicopter. As the house burns down, Bond escapes through the same tunnel that M and Kincaid used. The explosion takes out some of Silva's men, but Silva survives and keeps chasing M. He follows Kincaid and M to a nearby chapel. Inside the chapel, Silva confronts M. He forces his gun into her hand and presses his head against hers, begging her to pull the trigger and end both their lives. Just in time, Bond arrives. He quickly and decisively throws a knife into Silva's back, killing him instantly. However, the victory is bittersweet. M, gravely wounded from the earlier battle, dies in Bond's arms. After M's funeral, Bond meets Mallory, the new M. Bond declares he's ready to get back to work, showing that despite the losses and challenges, he remains committed to his duty. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you stay in the loop for all our upcoming content.